Spider-Man! To not be confused with Spider-Man. Huh. Because it was so smart to name this game exactly as the other one on the PS1, now it wasn't. Now when you tell your friends I'm playing Spider-Man, they're going to be all chronologically confused and ask which one, to which you reply, Spider-Man 1 of course, and they're going to be like, wait, what? There's two Spider-Man? What the hell? What do you mean there's two Spider-Man 1s? And thus, the confusion starts. Now people have to start giving ugly-ass subtitles to games because the publishers couldn't do it themselves. Lazy. Unless there's a reboot, there should never ever be a game that has the same title as another one. It just messes things up. It messes with the feng shui. Take Sonic the Hedgehog, for example. There's 2 games under that title because Sega thought the 2006 version would be up to par with the original. And guess what? Spoiler alert!
It wasn't.
Nobody even acknowledges that game as Sonic the Hedgehog anymore. It's just Sonic 06. Ugh. Anyways, I'm getting sidetracked. This is Spider-Man, the movie game. As you can clearly see, this Spider-Man game came back to the PS2 and came back with a vengeance, sporting a huge graphical update in contrast to the PS1 counterpart, and various tweaks and new gameplay mechanics. Treyarch was now at the helm with this game, and it was their turn to dig out Spider-Man from the trenches that Vicarious Visions had left them in. Did they succeed, or was it another spectacular spider bomb? Well, let's find out. The game is simplistic and straightforward when it comes to the plot. There's no messing around here. It loosely follows the movie's plot while taking a few liberties in order to add a couple of things to prolong the game time. Because of that, we see villains in this game that we normally wouldn't have seen if it followed the film to a T. Returning villains are the Shocker and Scorpion, who are brought back to much revamped versions of their past counterparts.
Shocker! I'll chase you to the ends of the earth!
And a brand new villain that we have yet to really see get the limelight in a 3D Spider-Man game, which is the Vulture. While the characters are revamped in terms of design and attitude, they're really reduced to nothing more than just generic thugs on the run from Spidey for stealing jewels from the jewelry. It's the Scorpion who admittedly steals the show in terms of actually getting me interested in a Spider-Man villain in a Spider-Man game, and it's all because of his origin being changed. You see, the Scorpion's origin was that of a man who went through radical testing from scientists under the hand of J. Jonah Jameson to take down Spider-Man. The procedure complicated itself, causing the suit to permanently mend to Matt Gargan's body. It caused him to just go flat-out psycho and be obsessed with getting revenge on J. Jonah Jameson for ruining his life. In this game, Scorpion is a government experiment gone wrong, which has caused him to go flat-out schizophrenic, throwing out references to the Illuminati and so forth. He's being chased down by Oscorp due to what they call arachnid DNA in his system, which would help progress the super soldier serum that Norman Osborn was depending on to save his company. Military contracts, etc., movie tie-in stuff. It's an interesting new take on the character that admittedly sparked my curiosity and had me wishing that this was further developed. But in typical form, it's gone faster than they can realize that they had the potential for something really good here. Well. When it comes to gameplay, however, I think the best word to describe it is a word I used earlier. Revamped. Treyarch uses the template of what Neversoft did and added some new kinks into it. For starters, we now have a combo system in place. Instead of Spider-Man just doing his patented mule kick and double axe handle, we now get new combos with different combinations of buttons. They're a nice touch, but to be honest, those who have ever played this game know that there's only 2 real combos to do at any given time, and that's Tackle and Haymaker. Haymaker usually one-hit kills every enemy except bosses, but even so, it staggers them, and Tackle knocks down everyone, giving you breathing room. In the earlier stages, it also one-hit kills, so there's that. They both also seem to home into targets, making it effective against any enemy that seems to be avoiding you, and they also guard break for the occasional thug that blocks your hits. While I appreciate the in-depth nature of the combo system, I don't particularly care for most of the moves. Granted, some of them are cool, but they have the main problem of usability. That and, well, there's far too many to memorize, making them a chore to actually do without having to pause the screen and look at the command list. A perfect example is a move like High Stomp, which only ever works on mooks. If you dare try it on a robot, or even a blocking enemy for that matter, you're just asking to be socked in the face for being a fool. Tackle and Haymaker away. In terms of level design, we see a lot of familiar territory. We have access to some city levels which again are just grid-like environments, which you can actually see the ground this time. But like in past games, if you tread too closely to the ground, you'll die a horrible death. You also have mandatory sewer levels and also secret laboratory stages, which just seem to be in every single Spider-Man game ever. It's seriously a freaking trend. The game plays it safe, but perhaps too safe. The game starts to feel very formulaic and somewhat even too familiar to the first PS1 game after the Shocker encounter. You start realizing that you're pretty much just doing the same thing, even if the levels themselves try to mask it as something different. You're just playing cat and mouse with the villains until the final encounter with them.
Usually games can get away with this formulaic style if the game's plot is somewhat intriguing or complacent, but because this game has little to no plot, it's really hard to not notice. And can be certainly tedious in some regards. But don't get me wrong, the game still manages to be fun in what it does. And can be challenging in certain aspects. If it had just changed up the routine, this game could have been something way more better than what it ended up being. But, like I said, I think Treyarch was just trying to play it safe with Spidey.
In terms of graphics, this game looks 10 times better than it ever did compared to the past games leading up to that point. The game's pre-rendered cinematics also looked absolutely great at the time, as Blur always does a good job with pre-rendered cinematics. But as far as the in-game models go, they're really good for what could be done at the time. Well, for the main characters involved with the game, including villains and Spider-Man. Mooks look odd and often look like they're made out of wax. Just ask Stone Cold Steve Austin over here.
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass, and that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so.
Though I've always wondered, why exactly Spider-Man's hands look like they've been ran over and put under a shrink ray?
We aren't done here, Scorp.
And also, the in-game cinematics also look off at times. The animations don't translate well at certain points and makes it look stiff. But it's a game from 2001, so I guess we can't really expect too much now.
Too late. Don't worry, Mary Jane. I'm coming.
Voice acting, for the most part, is okay. Willem Dafoe does an exceptional job reprising his role as the Green Goblin, as he sounds just as animated as he did in the film. And the rest of the cast does their jobs just as well, but Tobey Maguire, I'm just gonna say it straight, guys, he sounds absolutely bored in this game. None of his jokes translate well into the game and often fall flat. He fails to deliver an emotional line when needed, and couldn't make it seem to care like he gave a damn about being involved in this project. Hell, Stephen Hawking could emote better than this guy does in this game.
So you must be Quilt Man, Padded Pete, Mr. Triple Ply? Oh, I've got it. The cushion.
However, everything else in this game when it pertains to sound is great. Punches and kicks sound satisfying. The goons make hilarious grunts and groans upon being defeated.
Oh, clever.
Look out!
And the music is probably some of the best Spidey's ever had in any video game. Seriously, the Goblin's theme in this game should have honestly been in the film. It's just way too badass.
What a day.
Tough day at the office.
All that aside, it's really hard to talk about this game, because it's just nothing more than a technically enhanced version of Spider-Man 2000, without most of the charm, and I've already expressed most of my thoughts on it. It's still a half-decent game though, and unlike games of today, it's actually packed to the rim with extra content such as unlockable costumes, and even extra game modes that can be obtained in the training menu of the game, such as bowling, which, believe it or not, it's actually a really fun party game. Nowadays, you'd get charged $15 for the like of that. The game just suffers from being a one-track note at times, having you do the same things over and over again. It can have some pacing issues, primarily at the end of the game, where it just feels like it was just rushed just to get everything out of the way. It can also be awkward at times in the control department, where Spider-Man doesn't actually go in the direction you want him to, despite you holding down the direction you want him to go. And of course, there's the obvious camera issues which have plagued Spider-Man games since the dawn of time. Overall, it's a decent and fun game, and I'd recommend trying it out if you're curious enough. It's definitely cheap enough now at the point that you can get it for a steal, and if you love Spidey, you owe it to yourself to play this game. What would come next is something you'll never ever forget. And this was the game that helped launch it.
Usually games can get away with this formulaic style, but
You had to look. Wow.
usually games can get away with this formulaic style of combat. We'll do it live. We'll do it live.
No.
No.
Stop.
Keep it rolling. We got this. This is going to be the tape, okay?
I don't know what. Pain in the ass.
And 3, 2, 1, action! If only Treyarch had chose to just change up the pace a little bit and do something different, this game could have been something better than what it was. But, like I said, Treyarch just wanted to keep it cool. Fuck! That was so good! Ah! Because of this, the game can get somewhat tedious, but it still manages to be fun in what it does and can be certainly challenging in certain aspects. Repetition is really bad. Usually games can get away with certain fucking shit ass bitch cunt back. Alright, cut the tape. We're gonna try it again. Yeah. Because of this, the game can get somewhat tedious in certain regards, but it still manages to be fun in what it does. It can be certainly challenging in certain... Fuck! Again! Certainly challenging in certain aspects.
We all made it.